Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. We are here to preview the Week 3 matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens, the first time these teams have faced off since that 2023 butt-kicking. Ravens took it to the Lions at that time 38-6. Jacob's already shaking his head. He's already reliving that moment. We thought we were a real team at that point, going 5-1 into that game, and Baltimore said, not so fast, young Lions. So it's a good learning moment. All the players got asked about it today, like ad nauseum. I think at one point Jared's like, "You've asked me 5 questions about a game that happened 2 years ago." So I think he was getting tired of talking about it. But that's, we're all thinking it, and I know Dan Campbell's mentioned it. So, and by you shaking your head, I know you're still affected by it, Jacob.
Oh, it was irritating, right? Took the win right out of us. 5-1. We, our first major test, we thought we were gonna, show out and have a good game, and it was not a good game, in any sense. Everything could go wrong, did go wrong. Didn't score until way late in the game. It still feels fresh, right? I mean, this is not a team that we get to play every single year, so this is our next chance. We view this as a revenge game as fans. I'm sure the players view it as a revenge game too. They have to want to take it to the Ravens. They're a good team. It's going to be a good game. You want to show out against teams like this. Exactly. It's probably annoying to keep answering it to the media. I get that. And, being hounded about it all the time. Half the team that's here now, well, not half, but a lot of the players that are here now were not here that last time anyway. So
enough. The core was here and they remember it, and they'll,
true.
They're not going to, that didn't sit well with them. But I think honestly, like if you listen to what the players said, it's all about like, we thought we were a tough team. We went in there and we learned something that day. And I think the Lions will be ready to go into Baltimore and show that they're up to the challenge. We will have host of the Ravens Rundown, Joey Peterson, on shortly for our interview. You guys will really enjoy that. We really enjoyed talking to Joey. But before we talk all about that, Jacob and I, want to thank everyone that's been listening to this podcast. It's, been amazing. We're getting a lot of support. Show up on our live chat. It's so much fun talking to you guys on live chat and then doing the all 22 afterwards, which we will do on Tuesday next week. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Get the notifications. That way when we go live, you guys can get right on there. I appreciate it. If you guys want to put up a review on Spotify or Apple, we'd appreciate that too. But let's move on. Transactions, Jacob. What have the Lions done this week? We have an injury. Someone placed on the injury reserve. Why don't you update everybody?
So, Shane Zylstra, tight end, put him on the reserve injured list. So, we don't really know the extent of his injury yet, correct? I mean, unless we've heard something recently that I missed, but we don't know exactly. So, as of right now, we're still treating it as maybe there's a chance he comes back at some point this year. So, tough to lose him. We did sign Tristan Colon to the active roster from the practice squad. So he is taking Shane's spot on the active roster. We did sign tight end Ross Dwelly to the practice squad. So we got another tight end on the practice squad. We released Monty Rice, who was there for 19, I believe, special team snaps and 1 personal foul last game. And then, we released Monty Rice. So signed tight end Ross Dwelly. We also signed wide receiver / quarterback Malik Cunningham. And I think that one is kind of the bigger news story as far as the practice squad goes, because he's the one that used to play for the Ravens. He's the one that knows Lamar Jackson. He is presumably the practice squad quarterback. He's going to be the one running around mimicking what we might go up against Lamar.
Yep. I thought that was my first thought. I was like, they're going to be calling him Lamar for the week. We didn't have anybody on the roster, especially with the quarterback talents, to have anything like Lamar with our legs and the arm. Not that Malik is that guy, but he's closer than what we had to give us some of the escapability and what the Lions line will be facing. Now, the Lions in the first 2 weeks have done a fairly good job, I would say, against Jordan Love and Caleb, keeping them inside the pocket. Lamar's a different animal. We all know that. I'm not saying they're equivalent. This will be a bigger challenge, and the Lions are trying to prepare themselves for that. I thought bringing up Tristan Colon was interesting on multiple fronts. First, it was like, okay, is Mahogany more seriously hurt? But Dan Campbell said that he had a brace, they said in practice, the beat writers, but he basically said Mahogany's going to be good. Now he could be pulled, they might have did Tristan just to have, just some added depth on there. Is he going to supplant Awasika and take over a guard spot? Tristan Colon obviously could play center, so that gives you some help in that area too. It's kind of hard to judge where Cologne's at because he got injured, in the second preseason game and didn't do any other practice. Now he was upgraded, I think, to like the second team during that during that preseason game. So that was a good sign for him there. But then, he didn't practice after that. So I don't have a good read on where he's standing with the team. Obviously, they're bringing him up for a reason. So
yeah, I
have
mean,
any thoughts on that?
Well, that's the story, is the versatility, right? The possibility of playing center. He can play both the guard positions. That just helps to have on the active roster, right? And like you said, he could take Awashika's spot, especially after that one rep that he had that was terrible, last week. So,
Yep.
Maybe that's all it took for him to get a better look. Who knows? But yeah, definitely, helps during practice. Maybe if Mahogany isn't ready to go, Glasgow has been struggling as well. It's hard to say, right? Like you said, we only saw minimal from Cologne, but do you think that there's any chance of him getting a starting spot? Or do you think that he is strictly just going to be there just to rotate situational? Or do you think he's special teams?
I'm sorry, for who are we talking about?
For Cologne. I mean, do you think
Cologne?
that there's, like, based on injury or based on how things were going, do you think that there's any chance that he's getting meaningful reps with the line?
Not unless there's an injury. So no, he's just,
which we don't know about
backup.
Mahogany. I mean, we've been told that he's fine, but I mean,
Yeah,
that could last
he
one
could
series
be
of
up
the
there.
game.
I mean, the Lion. I mean, they didn't leave. And I know it was the Bears, but the Bears line is not terrible, and they did have some havoc with the Vikings. So, but the Vikings line's messed up. So I don't know. I don't know how exactly. It's too early to like get a full read on the situation. But
Right.
Jared Goff was hardly hit at all. I mean, and the only sack that he took was called back on a penalty. So he pretty much was clean that whole game. They played so much better that game. We'll obviously we'll know a little bit more playing Monday night, whether in a loud, visiting environment. We'll see if it's more like week 1 or week 2. I'm hoping it's closer to week 2, for obvious reasons. But we'll see. I like having Cologne up here. I think that he's got experience. If say Graham got hurt, he has center experience. He's not going to be, thrust into a position that he's never been in before. So I'm okay. I like it from that angle. And I think that's probably why the Lions brought him up for that, just added insurance.
Right. I mean, we hope anyway. We don't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what he's got left. Anyway, if we're moving on here, you want to get into the changes? What's different about the Ravens this year?
Yeah. So, we're not going to do every single change, but the big ones are DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver. Was it week 1 that he had that awesome? Yeah, it was against the Bills, right? He had a really, really nice touchdown catch. He could still do it. I mean, he's not the DeAndre Hopkins of old, but if you're not on him, he'll make you look silly. A guy that we're very familiar with, cornerback Jair Alexander. I don't know how much I looked at the snaps. He's not PFF rated, as far as like he must not have enough snaps overall to be rated as a quarterback, but his rating is very poor, like 26 or 28 grade.
Yes. So he actually was a healthy scratch last week. I don't know if you knew that, but they did not play him last week.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's interesting too. They bring him on. You think, okay, he might really help the defense, and he's already a healthy scratch, which he has an injury history and everything. But to see that he's fully healthy, I guess he got extensive work in the pregame, and then they decided that he wasn't going to play last week. So,
wow,
right, interesting.
Well, yep. Well, his PFF grade, maybe we want him to play on Monday.
Right,
we'll see.
Right.
As far as like their draft picks that they added, Malachi Starks, round 1. Jacob and I, that was a player that we both liked. Mike Green, another player that Jacob and I, even thought at the end of round 1 might be a possibility. It's probably some, off the field stuff might have taking him off the Lions board. We don't know about that. Then they have Buchanan in round 4, linebacker, and then a kicker in round 6. And the only reason we're mentioning that is because Justin Tucker, all this off the field stuff, although he did not have a very good season last year. It was not very Justin Tucker like. Whether that was the off the field stuff, I don't know. So I don't know if you even put that as a key loss just because he had a terrible season last year. But Tyler Loop, kicker, was brought in to replace him. Who did they lose, Jacob?
Yeah, so the losses, it was weird going through the losses because none of them felt like losses, right? So, I mean, I guess you would just consider these subtractions. So, kicker Justin Tucker, you already just said, I did put him on here, but, he was not playing well, right? I mean, without the off the field stuff, they might have been able to move on from him with his contract and everything anyway. Cornerback Tre'Davious White, guard Patrick McCarry, and then safety Marcus Williams. These are all people that the Ravens willingly moved on from and let them go to other teams and let them go on. I don't think that they're viewing that much as losses. I think they feel like they upgraded. And all those draft picks that we just mentioned are all starters, or all starting. I guess Mike Green maybe not considered a starter just yet, but I mean, they're all playing meaningful reps right away.
Well, the Ravens will do that. They're going to get the most out of their draft picks. They're going to develop them for a couple of years, and they're going to be high-end players. They draft a lot of low or high floor players. Players that they're going to contribute on that team, and then they're very good coaching staff there, at least in my opinion. All right, Jacob, main threat. Who should we be looking out for on offense for?
I think it's pretty obvious on offense, but we're gonna say it anyway. So quarterback guy goes by the name Lamar Jackson. Maybe you've heard of him. Yeah. He was the running back, right? No. Quarterback Lamar Jackson.
He could be on a lot
famously,
of teams, I'm sure.
Right? Famously, when he was coming out, had teams tell him that he couldn't play quarterback, that he should run. But anyway, quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's currently ranked number 16 according to Pro Football Focus, but NFL Top 100, he was voted the number 2 overall player. Then you have running back Derrick Henry, Pro Football Focus number 35, NFL Top 100 though number 7, and then wide receiver Zay Flowers, who's really been coming on, really been successful so far in the short season. He's rated number 3 in Pro Football Focus of all receivers right now. So definitely have some good offensive weapons on this team. Why don't you tell them about the defense?
Yeah, defense. We're going to start with Kyle Hamilton. Number 1 rated safety on PFF. Number 51 overall in the NFL Top 100. We have a guy on our team, Brian Branch, that's just like him. He makes the defense very versatile, makes them dangerous. So that's somewhere. I know that they asked Jared Goff today, do you have to know where Kyle Hamilton is? Yeah, you have to know. And he, have to know where he's on the field. And then after post snap, you have to know where he's moved to, because he's just that much of a weapon. Another guy that's dangerous is their linebacker Roquan Smith, obviously former Bear. He's a 6th rated safety on PFF in the top 100, number 40. This is a guy that I'm always watching out for, Roquan Smith. And Jared Goff, if he struggles with anything, it's top end linebackers. So he has to be on his A game. And Roquan Smith, we have to know where he's at. And then Madubuike, defensive lineman, rated number 18, Nnamdi Madubuike. See, I said it right. Got it?
Yeah, right.
That's why you gave me the defense. You just wanted to see me struggle there, but great defensive lineman. However, when we get down to the injury list, that we might avoid that one. So, all right, Jacob, why don't you go through that Baltimore Ravens injury list that was from the practice report today?
All right, so today on Thursday, this is the most current injury report that we have for the Ravens. So Nate Wiggins, cornerback, did not practice. Kyle Van Noy, linebacker, did not practice. Fullback Patrick Ricard did not practice. Madubuike, defensive tackle, did not practice. All 4 of those are starters, right? So none of them started. It's also kind of up in the air, not looking good for most of them from the reports that we've seen. So there's still an outside chance, but we may not see any of these guys. Tight end Isaiah Likely got in a limited practice. He did not play last week, but they're thinking that he's looking up possibly. Cornerback Marlon Humphrey showed up on the report, but he got in a full practice. So, potentially missing 4 starters from not all defense. Most of them are defenders, though. So Not good if you're a Ravens fan, if you're, wanting to have your best team out there.
Yep.
What do we got for the Lions? Why don't you go through ours?
All righty. So the good news, we'll start there. Siri Vaki, Trevor Nowaski got full practice. They've been limited practice. Well, no practice first week, limited practice last week, full practice for both of them this week. So it's looking good for them to make their season debuts this week. Kirby Joseph, who's been dealing with a knee problem all the way into training camp, was limited practice. That did not practice. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. They late added a limited. That was DJ Reed, and that was after the initial report come out. They came back and said DJ Reed was actually limited because of a knee injury. So we don't know much about that. I don't know when we're talking to Dan next. It may be tomorrow. I'm sure that'll get asked, so we'll have to pay close attention to that. Taylor Decker did not practice, same shoulder injury, did not practice at all last week. This may be more just getting him, some rest. That's what I'm suspecting. Jack Campbell also dealing with an ankle injury, did not practice last week for on the Wednesday practice, the very first practice of the week. So I think they're just giving him, I'm hoping that it's just a matter of rest. Well, no. The other one that everyone's keeping their eye on is Marcus Davenport. It's marked as a chest injury, and he did not practice. Dan was asked about his injury today, and they said they're still waiting on some doctor's reports. He hasn't been moved to IR or anything like that. Even Hutch talked a little bit about it during his presser today, saying that he's dealing with something. They don't know how long he's going to be out for. So I don't know if he's going to be showing up in this game. We're hoping that it's not longer. I'm not a person that's going to be piling on to Marcus Davenport. It's not his fault that he gets injured. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Right. But anytime you're talking about Marcus Davenport and that we're waiting on some doctor's opinions or waiting on some doctor's reports, probably not good, right? You're leaning that it's not good and that he's probably going to be out this week. Hopefully that's all. But, had he had a pretty good chance at playing, I don't think they would have worded that or been talking about it like they have. So I would say we're probably leaning against saying Marcus Davenport, but we hope that Campbell and Decker both maybe taking this as a rest day or some extra precaution towards Monday night, because those are significant losses.
I will say that I feel very comfortable with Al-Qudim Muhammad moving into the Davenport spot. He's been playing well. Let's give him some more reps and see how he can. I don't like, dipping into our depth like that. I like to keep fresh rotation, but I do feel comfortable putting Muhammad out there in Davenport's spot.
I would agree with that. It's not the same as when you had to put Muhammad out there for Hutch.
Yeah, it's a little downgrade, right? So, all right. Well, I think it's time to move on to our interview with Joey Peterson. We'll drop that now, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Let's welcome Joey Peterson to the show, content creator, analyst, and host of the Ravens Rundown for Chat Sports. Thank you, Joey, for coming on.
Of course. Happy to be here, man. Going to be a fun game on Monday.
It's going to be a really good game. I'm stressed. Got to wait all the way till Monday, just like for this big game. But we're the only one on. No double Monday night crap. It'll be just these two great teams playing.
Yeah, you only do double Monday nights when you got the Texans, Bucks, Raiders, and Chargers playing. You don't do that for two teams that are going to win 13 to 15 games this year. That's for sure.
It's not fair to the other game if you were to do a second one on Monday night, because everybody's going to be tuned into this anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we came on, you kind of gave us your background. Why don't you let our listeners know your background, like how long you've been covering the Ravens and anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah. So moved to Dallas last May to work for Chat Sports and started as a producer for the Ravens Rundown, did that for a couple of months, and then took over as host in August of 2024. So this is my 13th month covering them as the host. I've been with the team for about 15, 16 months. And so, man, video every day on the channel. Most days, two videos a day, live shows for every single game. So I have been in the thick of it with Baltimore Ravens football for the last 13 months or so. And it's been awesome, man. Lots of highs, a couple of lows as well, for sure. But for the most part, it's been a blast getting to cover them.
Definitely more highs than lows when it comes to covering the Ravens, I imagine, especially for the last year.
Yeah, way more highs, but that playoff, that extra point drop by Mark Andrews, that was a big low for sure.
Yeah. Well, in week one, I mean, they're up pretty big, and then it just all fell apart at the end there. That's crazy.
It was one of those deals where you're watching it in real time and you're like, there's no way this is actually going to happen, right? And then just it starts to pile one after the other, one thing after the other, and you're sitting there at the end of the night going, wow, I cannot believe that they actually just did that. But I got a feeling we'll play the Bills again some point this year, some point in the postseason, so that's going to be hopefully a fun rematch.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's unfair that you guys had to play them in week 1. That seems like a later in the season type deal where, both teams have got their identity. They're past the week 1 mistakes and penalties and all that stuff. And, it builds up. But, we had to face the Packers week 1, and that wasn't fun either. So I get it.
Yeah, we're both two teams lost tough ones week 1 against really good teams, and then did what you're supposed to do week 2 against those teams. So on to the next, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So you've been covering, like you said, for the last 16 months for the Ravens fan base. So I'm curious, how have you seen Lamar Jackson grow? Because he was already an MVP when you came on aboard, and now he seemed to have hit another gear. So how have you seen him grow?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, he is so far past all the stereotypes of him. He's leading NFL history in passer rating at the current moment. He also leads all quarterbacks in rush yards in the history of the game as well. I mean, he's as dual threat as it can possibly get. People like to compare him to Michael Vick because I guess that's the closest thing. But if you just look at the numbers, man, for what he's done the beginning of his career, it's not even close. And then just the level he's stepped it up in the last couple of seasons. Last year, throwing for 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's incredible. And it's not like Zay Flowers is great, Rashad Bateman's great, but it's not like he's got just unbelievable wideouts. It's not like Jamar Jefferson, T. Higgins are running out there for him every single weekend. So what he's able to do is amazing. And also, I think a big part of that is, the hiring of Todd Monken in 2023. He comes to Baltimore, takes over for Greg Roman, and just totally revamps the offense. It helps to have a running back like Derrick Henry in the backfield for sure. But, man, I think Lamar Jackson's – I mean, he might not be a pure thrower like Herbert, Burrow, any of those guys. But, man, he needs to – he deserves his flowers when it comes to his abilities as a pocket passer.
Yeah, the 4 interceptions is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you stop that? Like you need to gain possessions, and he's not giving you extra possessions.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of the really massive improvements that we had, or that he's had over the last couple of years, and he's still as big of a run threat as he's always been. And just to see what he did last year, I still am honestly shocked that he didn't win the MVP. He had one of the best statistical seasons a quarterback's ever had. No one's ever thrown for 4,000 yards, ran for 900 yards in a season, and he did that all while winning 12 games. But I mean, Josh Allen, can't say bad things about him. He's a great quarterback, but I thought Lamar Jackson was the MVP of last season for sure.
I think Lamar got screwed because he won it the year prior, and then they want to diversify a little bit. But
exactly. They just want a new face in there. If they were going where they should have, then obviously Lamar should have won again. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. But hey, man, Josh Allen's Josh Allen. He's you can't argue with what he does, especially with the talent that he's got in Buffalo. But still, 41 touchdowns, 4 picks. That's hard to argue with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. You kind of mentioned him already, Derrick Henry. So does he age? He's still as effective as he was before, but how did the Browns slow him down last week? What was the trick there? Because that was kind of a surprise.
It was a big surprise. I think Jim Schwartz just went into that game saying, hey, look, we are going to sell out everything to stop them from running this football. And they were saying, you know what? We'll put it in Lamar's hands. If he can beat us with his arm, he can beat us with his arm, right? Because they knew, obviously, they're outmatched, they're outmanned. So they got to take away one thing. And so I think they just really sold out to take away the run. Also, Baltimore's offensive line, it's got its deficiencies for sure. Obviously, Tyler Linderbaum's great. I love the tackles, Ronnie Stanley and Roger Rosengarten, but those 2 interior guards, especially with Daniel Falele on that right spot and even Andrew Voorhees at that left guard spot, they could be taken advantage of. And so that's one thing, Cleveland doesn't do a lot well. They got a good front 4. And so all credit to them with the players they've got up there, obviously Myles Garrett being the best of them all. And so I just think that's really what it was. I think Jim Schwartz came into that game saying, we will not let Derrick Henry beat us. And they didn't. And credit to them, because I hadn't seen him get stopped like that in a Baltimore Ravens uniform yet. But 23 yards, 11 carries, both of those lows since his time at Baltimore.
Yeah.
All right,
And they hung in there for a while, though. I mean, like, it was working, right? So, I mean, it was a close game at halftime. It was like, okay, what is going on? And then finally, I don't know, they just wore him down, and Lamar finally hit that second gear, and they broke it wide open. But, yeah, it looked like it was working for a little bit. I kind of envisioned the Lions kind of trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're sitting there, you're watching that game, and it felt an exact mirror from 2024, where you lose week 1, heartbreaking fashion, Kansas City Chiefs on the road. And then week 2, you have the Raiders at home, noon game, and you lose that one as well. And so you're watching that game, and it's halftime, and you don't have that big of a lead, and nothing's kind of really breaking open. And you're thinking, is this same exact thing going to happen again this year? But obviously, made some special teams plays. Defense stepped up, got a big turnover when they needed to. And so just kind of ended how everybody kind of thought it was going to.
So you just talked about Jim Schwartz just selling out to stop the run. If you were the defensive coordinator, how would you stop this Ravens offense? Do you agree with that? Just take away one thing and hopefully you can handle the rest? Or if you were in charge, how would you do it?
Yeah, it's so hard, man. It's just such a balanced offense. And it looks like Zay Flowers has really taken a step up over the last season of this one. He's really impressed me through 2 weeks. But I do think the only way you beat this team is by stopping them running the football. Genuinely. I think if they can run the ball with Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, whether it's just straight up I formation, inside zone runs, or whether it's read option out of shotgun, if they're able to do that, that's going to open up everything, and you're never going to be able to stop them. Because, I mean, look what happened to Buffalo. They put up 40 points against the Bills. And yeah, they put up 41 against Cleveland. But like you said, at halftime, it was close. So I think trying to get as much pressure in the interior of your defensive line, I think if you have really good interior defensive linemen, that's going to help out a lot. And if you don't, mixing things up front, running stunts, simulated pressures, I think that's going to help. But if you're going to stop Baltimore, it starts with stopping their run game.
Definitely. All right, we're going to switch up a little bit, switch over to the defense now. So what does Kyle Hamilton's versatility allow the Ravens to do differently on defense?
Yeah, I mean, he's unbelievable. And y'all get to watch Brian Branch every Sunday. And so you know what I'm talking about. If those two guys are 1 and 2, and you can put them in whatever order you want to. He just doesn't make mistakes, man. He is a sure tackler. He makes plays. He's aggressive. I think that's kind of my favorite thing about him. He just looks like he's shot out of a gun every single time he goes to tackle the ball carrier. And that versatility helps a ton. Helps a ton in the run defense, pass game as well. I like the cornerback situation for Baltimore, but I don't love it. And so I think being able to have him on the back end and be a little safety net, I think is huge. But then also the ability for him to play nickel if he needs to. I mean, he can rush the passer off the edge if he needs to. I've seen him do that a multitude of times. And I just sit there and I imagine, where this defense would be without Kyle Hamilton. And to me, he's like almost as important as Lamar is to the offense. People like to call Roquan Smith the quarterback of the defense, and he is, because obviously he's the green dot, he's the middle linebacker. But this thing runs with Kyle Hamilton. Roquan Smith would be decently replaceable. You can't replace everything that Kyle Hamilton does.
I like the comparison to Branch. I've heard that before, and it's from what I see, it's a pretty good. I mean, Kyle Hampton's a lot bigger than Brian Branch, but as far as like the ability to cover, I mean, when you have a safety that can cover like any other cornerback, it gives you so much versatility.
Yeah, it's if I was ranking the 3 best players on the Ravens team, I'd go Lamar 1, Kyle 2, and then Derrick 3. I think he's that important to this group.
Nice. Let's move over to your other safety, Malachi Starks. So that was someone that Jacob and I liked it coming out in the draft. So what's your impressions of him so far, like through camp and up through 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season?
I think it's hard. He got really thrown into I don't want to say a tough spot, but a spot I don't think they were planning on him to be thrown into as a rookie. They drafted him. They loved him. Everything I heard all the draft process was Malachi. And so I knew for a fact if he was there at 27, they were going to take him. And so that wasn't surprising at all. They take him in April, and then 2.5 weeks later, Ardarius Washington tears his Achilles. And Ardarius, in my opinion, was the big reason for the turnaround in the secondary from last season. Through the first 11 weeks of the season, I mean, this team couldn't stop a nosebleed. Then Marcus Williams gets on the bench. Ardarius moves up to a starting role next to Kyle Hamilton in the safety room, and really things started to turn around. And so I think the plan going into it was, hey, let's move Ardarius down to nickel, but also have him, be flexible, give him some reps at the free safety spot as well. And Malachi, I think it was going to be a little bit more of a wade into type approach, where he's not the full-fledged starter come week one. Well, Ardarius goes down. Malachi now then takes that role. So far the first 2 weeks, nothing that's crazy jumping off the page. And again, unless you're a safety like Brian Branch or Kyle Hamilton, it's really hard for you to 100% stand out and make these wow moments where everybody is watching and noticing and catches it. It's not like he's an edge rusher or you can see just bulldoze a tackle or something like that. But I'd say it's just pretty steady so far. Not too high, nothing too low, making plays when they come to him. But I've never, there hasn't been a time yet where there's busted coverage. I'm saying, Malachi, where are you doing? He hasn't bid on any double moves. He hasn't bid anywhere he isn't supposed to. He's just playing good football right now. I think it's going to come to him. It's going to slow down as the season goes on. I know he's just a really smart player, has great intangibles as well. So I've got a lot of hope for him in this future. But so far, through 2 weeks, he's looking fine, looking like a good football player. And I definitely see the potential there.
So I want to, sorry, Jacob, I just want to, the draft made me, when you mentioned the draft, you knew that they were going to take Starks, just from the chatter. And I think that the Ravens have a specific type that they go after. And just like the Lions, now that they're, since Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, everyone knows that they have a specific type too. So when you're, looking at the draft board, do you have a pretty good, you already knew about Starks, but can you pinpoint your players, the Ravens type players, pretty
Yeah. They like to say the term play like a Raven. Guys who are physical, guys who are smart, guys who are just, good, solid football players. Nothing ever super flashy, just guys who know where to be. They're physical, they're aggressive. And that's just kind of the style that they've gone after. That's why Eric DeCosta's been so good in the draft if you look over the last 5 to 10 years. And even he talks about it, he admits a lot of times it's just like throwing darts at a dartboard. A lot of times it just comes down to luck, but he's done a really, really good job of it. And so that's kind of why I also had a good feeling that, when Mike Green fell down there in the second round, they were maybe going to take a good hard look at him. I will say I was surprised that they end up pulling the trigger just because of all the Justin Tucker stuff that happened in the offseason. And so I think that part made it a little surprising to me. But, given the player that he was, it does not surprise me one bit that they were really, really interested in Mike.
Yeah, no, that as a player was a great pick. Somebody else that we both, were looking at and that we actually were considering maybe in the first round. We were trying to wonder who the Lions were going to take when we were on there. It's maybe Green.
Yeah. I remember tweeting that morning. I was like, player, what I expect, what I would hate. And I think I was jump out of the window excited. And it was Mike Green. And that was first round. And so I loved him coming out. And so when they got him in the second, I was very excited.
For sure.
It's always a good feeling, right? When you're like that. We had 2 years ago, this isn't a great example of it working out so far, but Rakestraw was mocked to us in the first round, and then we ended up getting him in the second round after we traded up for Terry, and now Rakestraw's been hurt. Well, a similar type thing. It's like all of a sudden you got this guy that's getting mocked in the first round, and then he falls all the way back to the second round. And you're like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll take it. Better value.
Yep.
Give me it.
Exactly.
Well, hey, what about Branch? Brian Branch, everyone was surprised that he fell out of the first round.
Yes.
It's like, thank you. We'll gladly take him in the second round.
Yes.
And
the
I
trade with the Packers to get that is just a chef's kiss. It's great.
Yeah. And I think Brian Branch and honestly, Malachi Starks are very, very similar type players in a sense. Nothing that athletically is just going to jump off the page and grab you. You know, their RAS scores weren't anything crazy. They don't have Nick Emanwari speed, Nick Emanwari size, but at the end of the day, they know where to be, they know how to play, and they're aggressive, they're physical, they're good football players.
All you have to do for Brian Branch is to show that fumble he created on Sunday with the Bears, where it just like he knew it was a run shot out of a missile, and you could throw all the RAS scores out or whatever because
Exactly.
his brain got him there faster than, like that's worth 2/10 of on a 40 time. That takes 2/10 of it out of there because he was there before the other his teammates knew what was coming. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Isaiah Simmons is the perfect example, you know? It doesn't matter how fast you are, how big you are. If you're out of position, it doesn't matter. So I think, it's Brian Branch is a perfect example of that. And I think Malachi Starks will be as well eventually.
All right. Next question we have for you. If the Ravens lose this game and start out 1-2, how will the fan base handle that? Is it different than last year starting off those first 2 games? I know you already mentioned. How's the fan base handle a 1-2 start?
I think with pitchforks and torches at John Harbaugh's front door.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, they are not very big on one Mr. John Harbaugh. And I think when you look at the statistics of all the blown leads late in the fourth quarter over the last decade or so, it's pretty jarring. It's a little surprising. I will give him that. Obviously, he's been there forever. He means so much to that franchise. He's not going anywhere soon. But if the Ravens fans had their choice at that, I mean, he would definitely be gone at the end of this year if it doesn't result in the Super Bowl. And I think, if you lay another egg early in the playoffs, I think it's a conversation to have based on just how it all rolls out. But yeah, if you lose to the Lions at home, Monday Night Football, yeah, they're going to think, it's a great football team. It's a team that won 15 games last season. It's a team that's going to get to the playoffs again. John Harbaugh is definitely going to hear a lot of it.
That was actually my very next question, because I see similarities between how the Lions are built, because I think they use the Ravens as a model franchise, to be honest with you. The way they're drafting, not selling out, and going all in on players, drafting really well, building through that. And I wonder how patient Lions fans will be. Because after the week 1 loss, it was like crazy. They're like, fire our new offensive coordinator. It was insane. Like, I mean, and I get it. Like, certain people are louder than others. So whether the fan base at whole thought that, but that's curious for me because looking at afar, I want John Harbaugh. I would love to have John. Like, I love Dan Campbell. I'm not replacing Dan Campbell, but in a multiverse where Dan Campbell's not there, John Harbaugh would be. I would love to have him as a coach, at least from afar. And have that Ravens drafting the way they are. That's a model franchise. Yeah, they haven't won the Super Bowl since 12, but they're always at the doorstep.
Always in the thick of it, right?
Yeah,
right.
I think it's the same thing that's going on with Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of fan bases outside of Pittsburgh would love Mike Tomlin, and they're getting a little bit restless there. Now it's different because they haven't really even won a playoff game very recently, and so it's a little bit different there. But yeah, 100%. I think Harbaugh and Campbell are so different, so similar in the sense of they're not a Kyle Shanahan. They're not a Kevin O'Connell. They're not these unbelievable scheme, offensive or defensive guru guys. They're just really good staff managers, game managers, leaders. And I think so when it's something like that and fan base looks and are like, what are you doing for our team schematically? And they can't really put something on the nose. I think that's going to, upset some people more if there is a little bit of turmoil, if there is a little bit of losing.
Yeah, I just think people underestimate how important that is. And if you don't have that at the top, nothing else works. If you don't have the guy that table sets everything and tells you, this is what I need from you, defensive coordinator. I may not do all the X's and O's, but this is how we're going to win this game, because that's exactly how Dan Campbell does it with the OC and the DC. This is how we're going to win this game. You coach your players to get there. And I see John Harbaugh doing the same thing. Because my original question is there a subset of fans that, aren't against John Harbaugh, but sounds like there may be more than a subset, or is it just allowed?
The funny thing is, after that Bills game, I put up a community post on our YouTube channel. Should John Harbaugh be fired? Yes or no? Got 6,000 votes. It was 51% no, 49% yes. And so it is
Crazy.
pretty much split right down the middle.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that it's really nice to have someone like you on the show that, is in tune with the fan base, because, look from afar, I would never guess that. I would, and maybe it's just like the same thing from afar. People think Dan Campbell's some meathead that, he's lucky and he only was good because he had Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and they don't, they're not in tune with the team and realize all what they do. But yeah, all right. It's good info.
I mean, they're sick of just being good. They want to be great, Well, that's something that we had talked about like in the offseason too, and the players have talked about. Like, we've been there. We've gotten to the we've gotten to the NFC championship game. We need to get over that hump. We've been good, steady. We want to be great. We want to get it done. So, I guess I understand from that perspective of being a fan, when you've had a good team at that level for so long, and yet you still haven't been able to just get over that hump, since 2012. I mean, I guess they're being spoiled by being good consistently, but that is, I guess something that fans want. You got to win or, make a move, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do see why a lot of people feel that way. Yes, it's fun in the regular season, but when you're always losing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. When you have a two-time MVP, Hall of Fame future quarterback, a lot of people just feel like you're wasting that away. A lot of people are just like, hey, these are Lamar's prime years. He's about to be, he's getting up there, about to be 30 at some point decently soon. And so I think that is a little bit of it as well. They feel like the clock is ticking on their Super Bowl window because Lamar, he's only going to get older.
All right. Before we take off here, Joey, we ask everyone to give a prediction. Now, it doesn't have to be the result of the game. It could be anything that you feel comfortable saying with any degree of certainty. This is what's going to happen in this game. It can be the result, but anything in between. Could be a player stat, could be over under, could be anything.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my wife out there, but if I could take all of our savings out and put it on the over, I think I would. I think this is going to be a high scoring ball game. I have faith in Baltimore's defense at some point in this season. I like Zach Orr. I like the personnel that they have. I just don't like it yet. I think it's just going to have to grow a little bit like last year. It took them 10 weeks to kind of get in shape on the defensive side of the football. I think that same thing's going to be said this year. And I think both of us, have defenses that can be had a little bit, can put some points on. And both of us just have explosive offenses, elite playmakers on, the running back position, the wide receiver room, and the tight end room, just so stacked offensively that I see this truly being a very high scoring ball game. I don't know if you guys share that same sentiment.
Jacob for sure does. I do too, but I've seen it so many times where you're just expecting this shootout, and then whatever happens, both teams do, 12 play run drives, and they both get one drive each in the first quarter. And there's so much that could happen. But yeah, I don't know if I'd be risking my whole savings. You're younger than me, so maybe that's
not much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not going to ask how much, but okay, I wouldn't be doing it. But I just want to let you know that Jacob is on your side. But last week he also said the Lions game was going to go on the under, and the Lions scored 52.
Yeah. Hey, I thought last weekend going into the Tennessee-Georgia game, which I was very invested in, obviously being a Tennessee alum, I felt under all the way. And they put up 85 combined points, so I could not have been more wrong.
Right.
I know you hated the result of that game, but that was a fun game to watch.
It was a great football game. But yeah, obviously brutal but it was electric, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you tell everybody where they could find you, and if you got any more content dealing with this matchup, where they could find that too.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on YouTube at the Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Again, I got my preview out earlier this week. I'll have stuff going out as we get closer to game time. I'll be live for the football game, starting about an hour before pregame, tailgate build up, and live doing play-by-play through it all. So If you want a fun environment to come watch it in, if you want to trash talk some Ravens fans, feel free to come hit us up. And then you can get me on Twitter at Joey Peterson8. And we appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So you heard him. So when we're up at halftime and you want to, throw it in some Ravens fans, because 2 years ago, the Ravens took it to the Lions, and we're looking at this as a revenge game. Take it out on Joey. He's a nice kid. Hopefully he didn't put his savings all on the line. And yeah. All right, Joey. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time and the expertise you gave us.
Of course. Thanks, guys, for having me.
All right. We are back. That was a great interview with Joey. Thanks again for being on. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know that I and Jacob really enjoyed talking to him. All right, this is it, Jacob. This is a big matchup here. So what is we're going to get into the keys to victory. What is your first key to victory?
So we kind of talked about it with Joey, but my first one, my biggest one, is just to take Derrick Henry out of the game. I think that's just going to be a big key. Seeing the Browns do a good job of shutting down Derrick Henry and stalling the Ravens, it was a 10-3 game at halftime. It was 10-20 at the start of the fourth quarter. I mean, I know that the final score was like 41-10 or something like that. So if you weren't in tune with what was going on, maybe you thought that it was just a straight blowaway, but it wasn't. And it kind of made me wonder if, that foot injury or whatever Lamar was dealing with, if that's not something that they're still dealing with, that they're just trying not to put out there, because he did not scramble. He did not have very many rushes last week. They let him throw the ball. And I mean, that's what I want to happen. I want to take Derrick Henry out of the game, limit the rushing attack, just take it away, and then make him throw, make Lamar throw. Maybe we'll create a turnover or something like that. He's still dangerous throwing the ball, but I just think if we make them one-dimensional, I like our chances. And I think that our line is, obviously just as good as the Browns line. I think our linebackers are better than the linebackers the Browns have. And I like our defensive backs better than Cleveland. And we have a better offense. So, I mean, if we do limit them, I don't think it'd be, 10-3 for us. We're going to be able to put points on the board too. So I think that starts there. The big one is just take Henry out.
Okay. I like it. Might be easier said than done, but I do. The Browns,
well, of course, but
let's hopefully Lions can do it. Yeah.
All right. What do you got?
All right. Mine is we got to win the red zone battle. Okay. I'm expecting some long drives. I'm expecting the Lions to want to, be able to run the ball, and we got to get points at the other end, and we have to limit. That's a way where we could, essentially steal a possession from the Ravens. If we get a touchdown and they get a field goal, that means they're going to have to get down there twice to our one score. So, I'm not expecting us to stop them every time they get in the red zone, but we need to win that. We need to score more touchdowns than they do when we get into the red zone.
Agreed. Next one I have is just,
all right.
I feel like every time I do these, it's just obvious, but win the time of possession. Because this is another game where it might hurt us to have like 1 or 2 minute touchdown drives. Obviously it's always nice to put the points on the board, but we don't want to let the Ravens wear us down to where, it gets down late in the fourth quarter and then they're just almost moving the ball at will. And then if it's a close game, they're able just to drive down and get in position because the defense has already been out there for so long. I hate going back to it and referencing the last game, but, in 2023, they scored touchdowns on their first 4 drives. All of them were between 3 and 6 minutes of game clock. So, I mean, that's essentially they took a whole quarter away of them having the ball, and they scored the first 4 drives. We went 3 and out 3 of the first 4 drives. And the other drive, we went for it on 4th down and then didn't get it. So that game was 28-0 at the halfway point of the second quarter. Obviously, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare scenario. But, I mean, to win the game, we've got to win the time of possession. We have to grind out some longer drives in this one.
I like it. Yeah. We were down 21-0 in that game 2 years ago before in a blink of an eye, and it was over before it even started. It cannot be like that. In fact, that's one of my keys to victory. Stay within 2 scores at all time. Just that way, they got to play things straight up, because I don't want to happen what happened with the Packers in that sense that they could play shell defense. They're keeping everything in front of us. Everything was just so tough, and then they could use the clock to their advantage. We can't let them get too far out in front of us.
For sure. I've got one more key to victory. Get Jameson Williams some touches. For the most part, good things happen when JMO touches the ball, and we've got to try some more sweeps, some slants, not just the deep shots. I want JMO to have a real shot at making an impact. I want to be able to try to look for other ways to get him the ball.
Want to give him an end round or something, huh? Jet sweep?
Yeah, right. Just put the ball in his hands. Give Booby the ball.
I like it. That is exciting football when you give it to your fastest player. So, yeah, I'm all about that. My last one is we have to steal a possession, and that's either through a turnover, some turnover on downs, forcing them after fourth down, or a big third down stop, on their side of the field so that, they're going to have to punt. I look at this game a lot like the Buffalo game from last year where we were able to keep up with them. We could just never get that stop that we needed. We didn't have our horses on defense at that point. We do now, and I think we have the firepower to get that stop. And if you look at the first two opening drives of the Packers game and then also the Bears game, we have both those teams in third and long, and we let them off the hook. We cannot do that versus the Ravens. If we get a 3rd and 9, we need to shut them down. That's that's what I see happening. So we got to get an extra possession here or there, and even maybe it's a Dan Campbell call where he goes for it in a risky situation, and we get an extra possession on offense because of that. That may be true too.
Yeah, no, agreed. The Ravens were atrocious on third down against the Browns. I don't know if you saw that. They were 3 for 12 on third down. That was a big story between them last week too. They just were not able to get it going. For whatever reason, the Browns were just, their kryptonite for the first 3 quarters.
Yeah. I mean, it is a division game, and we know how a lot. I mean,
True.
Sometimes they're closer than they need to be, and you look from the outside, and you're like, how well they see each other so often. Now, I didn't think that the Browns would have enough firepower. I mean, they certainly don't offensively to keep up with the Ravens, but I didn't even think defensively they do have a decent line. I mean, obviously Myles Garrett is more than decent, but the rest of it all as a whole, it's probably an above average line. They got good cornerbacks, but to be able to do what they did, it's encouraging for us. Like I feel like we could be able to have a chance here. So a couple things these are not keys to victory, but just things to look out for. So our our rush defense that the Lions pride themselves off, that we are the 7th lowest rated when it comes to explosive run plays. And when Jacob and I looked at the all 22 from the last video, it's the linebackers are just not containing. They're taking the wrong gaps a lot of times. So our linebackers really need to play better in this game, especially when you got Derrick Henry, because you let Derrick Henry get to the outside, good night. I mean, we can't afford that.
I also think some of that, to a certain extent, was play calling. Like maybe they're not hitting the hole where they're supposed to, but there's certain, exotic looking blitzes or stunts or different things that they're doing. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? That's a cool little stunt there. But now they've got a run play going the other direction. And you've got one chance to get them, and we're late getting over there. And I feel like that's just kind of the perfect storm where it's only happened a handful of times, but that's where you get burnt. And you're right. You cannot do that this week.
No. And we had mentioned him earlier, Al-Qadim Muhammad. I really want to see what he's going to do with more snaps. Currently in PFF, he is the 12th rated edge player overall. Hutch is 15th, so he's actually rated ahead of Hutch. So I want to see what this guy does with more snaps. And I'm pretty sure even if Davenport's in there, Dan Campbell said we got to get this guy on the field more. So I really want to see what he does.
Yeah, for sure.
It is time for the Roar Alert. This is the player that we think is going to make some noise for the Lions this weekend. Jacob, I'm going to let you go first. Who do you think is going to make some noise?
All right. My Roar Alert for this week is going to be Gibbs. So it's almost too safe of a pick because he's always hitting a juke or doing something noteworthy or something to keep us talking. But he scored his first touchdown against the Ravens a few seasons ago. So I think that, plus it's just a big time game, prime time, everything. I just think Gibbs is going to go off.
All right. I kind of have two because I was afraid. My first one is very subjective. So my first one is Dan Campbell. Something he's going to do, a call he's going to make. His aggressiveness is going to propel the Lions towards victory at some point. Now, we may not see that, so that's why I'm saying it's subjective, because it might not be as obvious as going for it on fourth down or, doing some sort of crazy play. but I just think that he's going to have this team in position to win. My second one is, and this is more objective because you'll be able to know if I'm right or not. A cornerback, so not our safeties, our cornerback is going to get a pick in this game. It's going to either it's going to be some sort of tip pass. We are going to play more zone in this than what the Lions usually play. So that means the cornerbacks are going to have their eyes on Lamar. We have to do that. So if he takes off, we can, get up there and stop him from running, but also going to put them in a position to maybe jump a route or, steal one. So I'm going to say Dan Campbell / cornerback gets a pick.
I love it. That kind of plays into my second grit guarantee. I've got a backup grit guarantee.
Okay. Man, okay? Well, I did 2 for Roar Alert, so I'll allow it. Let's move on to that grit guarantee. I'll start here first because I let you go first with the Roar Alert. It is going to be a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. That is my grit guarantee. So it could go either way, but it's going to be either team's going to be within 1 score. It's going to be a nail biter. We are not going to be able to sleep after the game because we're going to be doing what if or being so excited that we won. So it's going to be a close game in the fourth quarter, 1 score.
I like that. I can live with a close game, close showing. If we lose 38-6, I will lose sleep.
It's time for the grit guarantee.
All right, my grit guarantee. So the first one, this is the guarantee that I have. I'm going to go with a Sam Laporta touchdown. So the Ravens are going to be worried about Gibbs, worried about Amon-Ra, worried about J-Mo. There's so many mouths to feed. There's so much going on. I think Laporta is going to be able to do some damage. The Ravens have let tight ends get quite a few catches on them so far. I don't know if that's just them not thinking of the tight ends they've been up against as major threats or if they've just been worried elsewhere. Roquan Smith, probably not going to be able to keep up exactly on pass coverage as well as he is with run defense. So I think they forget about Laporta and he makes them pay. I'm saying Laporta gets a touchdown.
All right.
And then you kind of alluded to it. So, yeah, because this one is super bold. I don't know if this is more of a great guarantee or just a super hot, super bold take, but I am saying that Tyreek is going to tip a ball and that Terrion Arnold is going to intercept it.
Oh, man. All right.
So you mark this down. If this happens, this is going on YouTube, and I'll remind you about it every week forever. Tyreek tips the ball, Terrion picks it off.
Dude, you can remind me about it. You can call me up right after it happens. You can do whatever you want. If that happens, I'm going to be screaming, and the boys will be mad at me because they got mad at me for screaming so loud at some of the Tiger stuff that happened this year.
Oh.
The neighbors could hear you. I'm like, it's good yelling. It's better than when you're yelling at me because you're mad at me.
Nice. It's good yelling.
Yeah, it's right. It's happy yelling. All right, let's move on to our next section. It's called the Grit Picks.
Grit Picks.
All right, Jacob, I'm going to go over last week because I bested you. You got 1 game right. Is that correct?
According to what you have written down here, I suppose. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and this is the correct.
Half as many games as you. So don't word it like that.
It's all right. I doubled your efforts. You picked Commanders. No, I had the Packers. So that was our difference there. We both picked Minnesota. Atlanta tore them apart, and then
great defensive play calling, and
JJ's now hurt. So I mean, if you're scoring at home, JJ's had 1 good quarter, which netted him the offensive player of the week, which is hilarious to me. And then he's had 7 pretty bad quarters of football play. Not saying that's going to go on, but that's the reality in Minnesota right now. And then now he's injured and he's going to probably be out for, I don't know. I've heard 2 to 4 weeks. We'll see. He didn't practice today. All right. We both picked the Texans, which looked pretty good till the Bucks came right at the end and bested the Texans. And both of us picked the Chargers, and the Chargers pretty much had control of that game the whole time. The Raiders really didn't put too much of a fight up that day. Let's move on to this week. So obviously we're recording this on Thursday night. There's a game currently in my corner that's probably closer than both of us thought at this point. But objectively, who did you pick, Jacob, for Buffalo, Miami before you see the score?
Yeah, so Dolphins at Bills. The Bills are favored by 10.5 points. The Bills have looked really good, just like they're supposed to. The Dolphins do not, right? So what we've seen so far, this looks like the Bills should cover 10.5 easily, but this is a huge game for Miami. You know, they don't want to go 0-3. You don't want to lose to the Bills and give them more momentum. And if you're Mike McDaniel, I mean, this game speaks volumes for what kind of coach that you are. Are you going to rally the troops? Do you still have the locker room? Are you all going to be on the same page and have a chance at an upset? Or are you just going to come out and go through the motions and take another loss? So, you know, and I, full disclosure, because this game's going on right now, but I talked to JJ and I told Jason this earlier that I have a feeling the game is going to be more of a contest than people are thinking, but I still definitely have the Bills winning this game. And I think they probably end up covering.
Yeah. Well, as of right now, it's 28-21, and the Dolphins have the ball at 50-yard line. I still pick the Bills to win. I mean, I had this pick before the game, but this is surprisingly much closer than what I anticipated going in. So both of us have the Bills on that. All right, Jacob. Sunday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs at New York Giants. I am doing the unthinkable and picking the Giants to beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are going to be 0-3.
You know, I can see it happening. The Chiefs are in New York at the Giants. They're 6.5 point favorites right now. Everyone in Kansas City knows how bad they need a win right now. You know, but the Giants are also 0-2. They're at home. It's going to be a fight. I think KC has they obviously have better coaching and they have a better roster. I think that the Chiefs are still going to get it done. But I will say that the key to this is going to be the Chiefs' offensive line. Can they slow down the Giants' defensive line? The Giants' line is good. The Chiefs' offensive line has not been. So if the Giants are in their face and there's, you know, if they're pressuring Mahomes and Mahomes can't do anything, it's going to be a long night for them. It's probably going to be a low scoring, just embarrassing game for the Chiefs. But I am still picking the Chiefs to win.
All right. We'll see. That's difference maker. All right. So we don't, if you've listened to this show all along with us, we do not pick Lions games. We just don't do it. Jacob is superstitious, and I find it very hard to be objective, to be honest with you. I'm always going to look for an excuse why the Lions are going to win. Not that we need excuses now because the Lions are very good. But what I come up with is an over-under for this game. And I didn't want to pick the over-under of the actual game because I think we both think it's going to be the over. So what I actually come up with is over-under on Isaac Tesla's catches. And I have it set at 1.5, Jacob. Will Tesla get double hit? You know, will he get 2 or more catches in this game?
Will he tie his season total in this one game? That's a really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good number. I don't know if that's what the betting line is at because I think that's fair. But you know, I think they're increasing his workload every week. You know, whether that equates to more catches, I don't know. I do think that he probably is going to get maybe 3 to 4 targets in this game. I'm hoping that he gets several targets, especially if it's an offensive blowout or an offensive output. You know, if it's high scoring. I'm gonna say over. I'm gonna say he gets 2 catches. What do you got though? What are you thinking when you made this?
Oh man, I want to say over because I like him so much. I'm gonna say under, but it would not surprise me to. I'm just gonna say under just to be different. But I'll be rooting for the over hardcore. And if he gets it, I'll be glad that you won. This round. But
right.
I like this kid. But this is a huge game. If he gets 2 catches or more in this game, you know, and we trust him, you know, on Monday Night Football on the road, then it shows me that how much we're going to trust this kid moving forward. I don't know. Did you see Scotty Montgomery's interview today when they asked him about Tesla?
I did not see it today.
It was interesting. He's like, I want to start seeing him catch it with 2 hands.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I've seen him catch it with 1, but he needs to get 2 hands in there. But he said that, you know, they're pretty amazing catches.
Absolutely.
All right, Jacob. I think it's time. I want to watch the rest of this Thursday night football game. So I'm looking forward to a good game on Monday night football. I know that you are too. Is there anything you got before we take off here?
No, man, I'm ready for it. I'm just hoping for a competitive game. I'm hoping we take it to them.
I have a feeling it's going to be. So I'm excited. So I think there's just one thing left to say. He's Jacob. I'm Jason. And let's go live. Ryan